Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and I made a lot of mistakes, like too many to count honestly. But one big thing is that my habits were everything, and habits are literally everything. And the worst thing is, guys, habits are so powerful to the point that you can do something that you don't like over and over and over and over again and you hate it. But then it comes to a point where even you know that you hate it, you can't stop it anymore because it becomes this crazy destructive habit. And one bad thing is when you realize that you can do a lot better in life, that you want to change, you want to build up your investment account, you want to have some savings, you want to have some money, you want to stop living paycheck to paycheck, but you already established all of these habits that just don't permit you to actually achieve your goals. So for this video right here, I'm just gonna tell you exactly the habits that took me and made me broke for a very long time. I'm gonna tell you how I basically avoided those habits, I changed them, and I'm gonna be as honest as I possibly can. This way you can avoid them or break those habits if you also have them. And there's this powerful quote that says, "The change of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken." And that is a fact. It took me years to understand that, but you can start a very small habit. Doesn't sound like it's such a difficult thing to break, so you don't really study it, but then later on in years, it's almost impossible to stop. Like this device, I gotta stop the bad habit of being on my phone so much throughout the day, okay? Gotta end that like super quick, okay? But this video, let's break down the money things that kept me broke for a long time. And as always, guys, like this video on top of also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified. Now, the very first habit that I had was I was focused only on my income and I wasn't focused on my output. It was kind of like, I always use this analogy because it makes sense. It's kind of like having a bucket, and when this bucket is in perfect pristine condition, you can put water in it and then boom, the bucket is still filled with water. But if this bucket has a hole underneath it, no matter how much water you put into it, it's always going to end up empty if you stop putting water into it. And that was me. You know, when I was going to college and I was living at my mom's house, I was basically fine, right? I had no expenses really, and she gave me like 10 bucks a day. I was fine. And then all of a sudden I get a job. I'm making some money, like $1,200 a month, doing work study. And then a few months later, I can't even live off of that $1,000 anymore because I raised my expenses. And then I said, well, that's not enough. Let me go get a job at the Gap. So I got a job at the Gap, okay? All of a sudden, I can't live off of $2,000 anymore because I need more money. So I started basically hustling. I started flipping phones, buying, selling sneakers also, and just hustling overall to make some extra money. And then I was like at $2,000, $3,000, sometimes $4,000 potentially while I was in college. And I was like, I can't live off of this. I need more money. And I realized that this was never going to end because the more money I made, there were always going to be other things out there to take my money. I just kept adding in and adding in and adding in more and more bills, and it never was going to end. And I realized very early on, I was fine with working a lot and spending it all, but I knew it wasn't right, okay? So the way I broke that was I had to sit down and create a budget. That's the truth, okay? It sounds boring, but it's true. I put on one side, hey, Tommy, what are your needs? And I put on the other side, what are your wants? And I put on the other side, what is your income? So your income covers all of your needs, and all these things right here, which are the wants, are the things you don't need and are stealing all of your money. And at that time, I didn't keep anything, honestly. I basically annihilated with all of my wants. Didn't keep a single one of them. But today, I keep a few wants that aren't really that crazy high. But back then, I had to be decisive to break those habits. And that way, things changed. So the more money I made, my lifestyle stays the same. So more money just means more money for investing. And in return, even more money. And then more money for investing. But my lifestyle doesn't go up, you know, until you adjust for inflation and so on. But that's the first thing that kept me broke. More money isn't gonna fix your problems if you just keep basically making a bigger hole under the bucket, which makes no sense, okay? Now, number two, and the second habit that was very destructive for me was basically, I only bought liabilities. 100% of the things I bought, I promise you this, okay, were liabilities. If you ask a rich person, hey, what do you own? What have you bought? They might tell you, hey, I bought some land, I bought a business, I bought this and that, things that basically earn their money. Basically, they buy assets. But me, I was buying a bunch of liabilities. So if you came to me and you asked me, Tommy, what have you bought lately? Some sneakers. I bought a bunch of food over here. I spent money on this and that, but everything I spent money on was just liabilities, things that took money away from me. What else have you bought, Tommy? Oh, I bought a new iPhone, like $700 back then, before they got into the $1,000 range. To me, every purchase that I made was a liability. So I put money into something, a few months later, it was basically worth less and less and less until it became worthless. Now, by the way, for me, back then, let's say I was making $8.75 an hour, not included my side hustle and my second job. Guess what? I was fine with spending $150 on a pair of sneakers until I realized, Tommy, you're spending 17 hours before tax on this sneaker. That's crazy. That's like insane. And then once I realized that, which by the way, it's embarrassing to say, but it's not like I realized it by sneaker number 1 or sneaker number 2. I realized it by sneaker 23. I bought 23 pairs of sneakers. I saw a whole closet filled with all these liabilities, and I was like, you're broke, and you got a closet full of sneakers. That's crazy. So I went ahead, I kept a few, I sold the rest, and I said, I want to buy things that make me money. If you ask Tommy today, Tommy, what do you buy every week? I buy stocks every week. I buy assets. What else have you bought, Tommy? Last year, what did you buy? I bought a house. It's paid off. It's my house. It's an asset. It goes up in value. Stuff is pretty cool stuff, okay? And what do you want to buy this year? What are you saving money up for? I want to save up for another property, to buy more investments. Things that make me money. Things that make, for example, again, right? Because we all have a bucket and we all have holes. Because in the end, we all have expenses that we need to have in there. But if the water is the income, if the water pressure and the water that comes out is so powerful, the bucket is never gonna get empty as long as the income keeps coming. So for me, building passive income is super important. So today, I collect assets. And after the assets buy assets and those assets buy more assets and more assets and more assets, then I can use some of that money to buy me some liabilities whenever I want to. But right now, I'm still in the asset building phase, even at my point, okay? Now, here's the third thing that happened that kind of stopped me, okay, and kept me broke. I wasn't spending any money whatsoever when it came to education. And this sounds extremely weird because I just told you I was in college, right? I was spending $25,000 a year on a private school. Thank God I got a scholarship. I also got financial aid and another scholarship. And even then I took money out to do something else with it, but that's another story for another video. But overall, that stuff, if done correctly, can be an asset. Education, college, career can be an asset. For most people, they graduate, they don't use a degree, or they went to school for a dumb degree. I went to school by luck for a good degree that I only used for my benefit. But in reality, while I was in college, everything I learned, I forgot literally, not by today, but like a week after the test. Like it was all just, for example, good grades, okay. But what I wish I would have done while I was in college was got an internship and actually started working somewhere to use those skills I was learning to put them into action and so on, and build more confidence and so on, and build more legitimate skills instead of just basically going to college to study to pass a piece of paper and impress the teacher or whatever. I regret that so much. But overall, even back then, I wasn't willing to invest in my own education, because school is one thing. School is training you for a job. But what about your personal finances? You know, when people say, oh, they don't teach you this in college, or in high school, they don't teach you in college either. You know, so I should have invested a lot more money in more investment books and more personal finance books. But back then, I wasn't willing to. Today, I have like my own little mini library. And I have like, I don't even know how many books on this phone, like a lot of books. I've read so many books because education and self-education is so powerful. Today, if I see a book, I like it, looks interesting, I'll buy it. If I see a book and I know I need it, but I don't want to read it, I'll still buy it because I know I need to do it, okay? So one thing I've learned is if you're not a reader, that's fine. Use your ears. So while you're driving, listen to an audiobook. And don't just read these fictional books because although they're cool, if they're not helping you, it's a waste of time. Like, it's fine to be distracted, but it's important to educate yourself as far as, for example, will this, again, be an asset to me or just a liability? You know what I mean? So that's also very important. Now, number 4, my friends and the people I surrounded myself with. And it's not like these people were bad people. No, they were my friends. And the thing was that my friends were like, in the sense, carbon copies of me. Like, in reality, it's kind of crazy and silly, but all of my friends, all they did and all I did to them was support this mindset we had back then, which is basically, we want to look cool, we want to save some money to spend the money, and we want to do dumb stuff, okay? And my friend group was all about that. We would eat out all the time, we would buy sneakers, we would try to impress each other, and we would try to get the latest and greatest or whatever. I have a 3-4-year-old phone that has battery problems. I bought a new battery so it can last a little longer. But that was what I was doing back then. And when I slowly but surely realized this is a problem and I started to change, well, guess what? That world basically exploded. Because when I became different, then I was no longer supporting this idea anymore, so that made them uncomfortable, and then a lot of those friends just kind of like left. I only ever broke up with one friend, and that was a friend that was very toxic, and I used to think that was my best friend, but that's the only friendship I ever purposely broke up with. But all of the other friendships that just didn't belong just kind of just slowly but surely just like faded out. But because of that, I also made a lot more lasting friendships with people that fit into this new idea of we want to collect assets, we want to do boring stuff, we want to basically invest, we want to have fun, but we don't want to go crazy and be broke and crazy in debt. So my friends today are a lot more better in the sense of they support this new, better idea. But those friends back then, some of them reached back and they were like, hey, can you help me with this? And I would always be like, yes, because you can try to help someone, but only when they're ready. That's the most important thing you need to know, by the way. So trying to help someone when they're not ready is gonna be a massive waste of time. And the last one is ego. You know, I like to think that everything I do it for myself and that I don't care what people think, but I really do, okay? So when I was buying those shoes, I was thinking about other people and trying to impress them. When I was buying the latest iPhone, I was thinking about the people and trying to impress them. When I was thinking about buying a $500,000 house, a crazy nice car, I was thinking about those looks, and I thought about justifying it in some ways and saying, well, I need this fancy house, I need a fancy car because with my career, it's gonna serve me for a network. I tried to do a whole bunch of justifying, but in the end, it was just excuses because I just wanted to stand out. And a lot of it was ego, a lot of it was just marketing that I heard before and me trying to resonate with it to justify basically what I wanted to do, which is buy things that didn't make any sense. A lot of it is ego. And the way I let go of that is I had to do a lot of like learning and studying to realize that what I wanted was to be well off, to be financially free, obviously. That's what we all want. But then I had to figure out who are these people that are well off and financially free. And when I looked them up and I did research on them, it's a great book on it, it's called The Millionaire Next Door, I realized that the average millionaire is not the person you see on TV with a Ferrari or Lamborghini, the hot wife. No, they have regular wives, which are nice and beautiful, by the way, they live in regular homes that cost $300,000 and $200,000, and they basically focus on being frugal and budgeting and investing money for the long term, and they go on vacations, yes, but they don't go crazy about these things. And those are the people that I want to emulate. So I started to emulate those people, and I realized that my ego kind of is always there in the back. So whenever I want to buy something, I'm like, I want to get an expensive one. But I'm like, okay, relax, because you kind of have like new heroes and new people you admire. So overall, when you kind of combine everything, the biggest habit was basically I only ever really thought about my ego, myself, and like living today, not living tomorrow. Everything was kind of like YOLO. And I really wasn't thinking about the future. And my whole life and the way I constructed my life was to support that, because that's what we do. We build a world and a lifestyle that supports what we want. So even though you say something through your mouth, your actions show something else. So you gotta have your mouth match your actions, and that takes a lot of work and it's hard. And by the way, today, I still struggle with these things. And if I stop doing what's worked for me so far, I will by default go back to being a spender. I can't blame my parents because my mom is an ultra saver. My grandma's an ultra saver. They're all like living debt free. They have like homes and so on and paid off cars, which I do too now, by the way, which is awesome. But from my family side, I really do have great examples. So I have no one to blame for like all my stupid stuff. Aside from that, I was just like stupid and dumb. And I still am a little stupid, but I'm just like stupid and aware that I was stupid. So now I don't do those same stupid things, okay? So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this video saves you a lot of time. And I hope that you don't make any of these dumb mistakes that I made. And I hope you don't say, well, Tommy, I gotta go through some of this stuff too so I can learn on my own as a man or as a woman. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You don't gotta break your leg to know that it hurts, okay? You saw me crying about it, okay? So you don't gotta do it. So don't make these dumb mistakes. I'll see you guys next time though. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified, and comment down below ego, so I know you made it all the way to the end of the video. As always, more content up here. My face is up here. And as always, long-term team out. I'm a little embarrassed, but I think this video is gonna help a lot of people, so it's worth it.